Hey, thanks for stopping by. This is part 2 of a video that I did with Prophet of Zod. If you want to see the first part, please check the link in the description, and please don't forget to go subscribe to his channel. I highly suggest watching the first part before watching this one, but if you've already seen it, please feel free to continue.
And you know, every time that your children watch this program, whether it's a video, whether it's a cartoon, whether it's a comic book, no matter what it is, they hear this mantra, this rap song that's played over again. And it says, I will travel across the land searching far and wide, each Pokemon to understand the power that's inside. And then it's enchanted to them. Gotta catch them all, over and over and over and over again. You know what it does? It fuels your child's craving for more cards, more books, more videos, more movies. It's designed to do that. That's what we call enchanting.
No, it's called marketing. If you're accusing them of trying to sell merchandise to kids, I guess I won't argue with you there, but it's a huge leap from that to demonic influence.
This dude literally just tried to call capitalism magic.
Here's the next character. This is Misty. Look at this. Now this is off of a comic book. This is actually a page of a comic book. But if this was clear, if this was actually clear, you'd see that that's a halter top. It stops right there. And she's got short shorts on. And you know she's got to be about the same age as what Ash is. Okay? And she's described as Ash's companion. And listen what it says about her. She's headstrong and stubborn, constantly arguing with Ash. Typical woman. No, just kidding.
The fact that he's hyper-focused on which cartoon characters have demonic imagery yet still feels okay telling sexist jokes shows just how far off track this nonsense can send your priorities.
Frivolous spirit, that's what it was. And here's Brock over here in the corner, and Brock is by far the most hormonal because his fascination with the opposite sex many times gets him or the group in trouble.
You're right. Brock is a bit of a lonely guy. Honestly, I'm just glad he eventually settled down with Professor Ivy, up until the point where he didn't.
Isn't he the one that always gets hearts in his eyes and asks everybody to marry him?
Yeah, and Misty yanks his ears away and ruins his dreams constantly, and really a lot of anime from that era had this issue of having a single lecherous character constantly pining after women, from Hipposai and Ranma 1/2 to Master Roshi and Dragon Ball and Moroku and Inuyasha. Anime really had no shortage of pervs in those years. Now the lecherous anime characters are the ones watching, you perverts.
And given all the examples I could think of from any form of entertainment or literature, this is about the most innocent, childish version of a fascination with the opposite sex I've ever seen.
Well, then there's Pokemon trainer Gary. And Gary's not pictured in here, but Gary is a real self-centered jerk. He's vindictive and he's obnoxious. And then there are two characters, and one's called Jesse, and the other one's called James. And listen what it says about them. It says, prepare for trouble, make it double. Jesse and James are an evil gang looking to steal rare Pokemon.
Yeah, they're the bad guys. So your point is that the show is a bad influence because it shows its villains doing villainous things?
I wonder what he would say about what some of the villains in the Bible get up to. For that matter, what some of the heroes are involved in. Honestly, I just wish Christians would apply the same level of scrutiny to their favorite book in general, because holy crap, there's some screwed up stuff, from sawing babies in half to concocting abortion potions, throwing kids into pavement to spill their brains out. There's no shortage of gruesome imagery, and all the stuff I just said is from the hero's side of things. I mean, check out Psalms, Song of Solomon, or Numbers for more exciting tales.
You just don't understand those stories in the Bible because you're using bad exegesis in context.
Jesse and James are stuck up, fashion conscious, and you know what? In the program, they're also prone to cross-dressing.
So far be it from me to comment on this for, reasons.
Like your boobs?
But does he have a problem with Bugs Bunny by chance? Because Bugs was known for cross-dressing a ton as well. For the same reason as Team Rocket, though. Disguises. They were disguises, my guy. You know, for espionage, sneaking into places. If I could chime in here, he seems to have lumped every supposed negative character trait from every character and thrown them into some narrative soup to make this point. Thing is, you could do this with any story, fact or fiction. If I take every negative trait from every character in the Bible and make a blanket assessment of the Bible based on that, I would have a genocidal, incestual, sexual assaulting, thieving, enslaving, foreskin harvesting asshole to present to you. And that's just using the Old Testament.
Now, if you don't know what that means that if you feel like you're a woman in a man's body, you wear women's clothing. You dress like one. If you're a woman who feels manly, you wear men's underclothing and dress like one. Cross-dressing. Oh, what kind of role model would that be?
A role model who expresses who they are without harming themselves or others, or doing degrading things like telling sexist jokes.
Okay, now remember at the first, I think that's enough right here, because I think we've got a pretty well good establishment on this thing. Remember that I said that if the characters were the kind of role models that established the kind of values, standards, and morals that we wanted our kids to have when they got to be an adult, that this game or this particular thing is okay. Remember we said that? Okay, so let's examine what we got. Let's see. Headstrong, stubborn, quibbling, self-centered, vindictive, obnoxious, hormonal, sexually preoccupied, evil, thieving, cross-dressing jerks.
Yeah, even I know there's a lot taken out of context here. Just from having watched some of the shows with my son, I know most of these weaknesses are traits the characters strive to overcome as they grow. Either this guy never really bothered learning about Pokemon before giving this lecture, or he's intentionally misrepresenting it to his audience.
I don't know about you, but I mean, even if I wasn't a Christian parent, I wouldn't want my kids to grow up with those kind of traits.
You're right. You wouldn't want them to. But that's the thing. Stories tend to have characters who learn to grow over time. In the Indigo League story, the story that existed around the time you made this video, Brock learned to grow into a self-actualized person once his dad was forced to take on the role of parent again. Ash learned to be more humble as he got stomped in the Pokemon League. Misty learned forgiveness and learned to do that easier for people while still holding them accountable for their actions, the way she did with Ash and her bike that he broke in the first episode. Team Rocket became less villainous over time and softened up, and each of these are flat characters who don't really grow all that much, but they change the world around them, which means I'm not even touching on what happens with characters like Erica, who learned to trust men more, Sabrina, who learned to control her own powers and stop hurting those around her with her emotional outbursts, and countless other characters who were changed by Ash and Co. for the better. You don't want your kids having these traits? Fine, I wouldn't either. But the point of a story is to have characters who grow out of these negative issues and change other negatively coded characters for the better. And that's something that early Pokemon did wonderfully.
Exactly. You show young people making mistakes kids will identify with, then show them realizing why they're mistakes and modeling ways to grow and improve. It's kind of the point. And if kids can't identify with the initial negative impulse, they also won't relate to the later process of growing and learning. Even the Bible uses its own characters to do the same thing. Unless you think the whole point of David was to model adultery, and the whole point of Thomas was to model doubt, and the whole point of Peter was to model misunderstanding Jesus' ministry just to make readers copy these negative traits. To represent the Bible this badly, you'd have to either be misconstruing it on purpose or reading it like an idiot. You know, like what this guy's doing with Pokemon.
Day after day after day, playing this game, watching the cartoon, reading the books, looking at the videos.
Based on my previous remark, I'm very happy as a parent letting my child watch the characters on this show. It teaches him a lot about sportsmanship, competitiveness, and compassion, and has actually launched good conversations between us on these topics.
Now, we're also told that these actual beings have supernatural abilities. In other words, they can evolve and grow into bigger and better monsters. Now, this is a scene, actually this is a poster from the movie. And look here, this is Mew over here, M-E-U. He's kind of cute. And this is Mewtwo over here, complete with his satanic salute. And if you notice, that pose is always given with the left hand. That's significant.
Maybe I'm off here, but isn't he holding up his right hand?
Remember the left-hand path? And we're told that they get bigger and better. Of course, that's what we always want. Bigger and better monsters. That's what the world needs.
Dude, you seem to only be able to speak in hyperbole. Growing a monster in a fictional game is not the same thing as unleashing a kaiju on the world at large. Though, based on that Jack Trick Tract, you probably believe there's no difference. And D&D players summoned Cthulhu in that story. Somehow.
And we're told that they get bigger and better through the use of energy. Now, a funny thing happened. Well, actually it wasn't funny, but an interesting thing happened when this movie, Pokemon, was actually first released in Japan. I want you to see it. This is from CNN. Look at this. Because this is very highly unusual. Japanese cartoon triggers seizures in hundreds of children.
Wait. You just said that this was after the movie released, but that episode that triggered the seizures was Electric Soldier Porygon. Now, this was from the regular TV show. Why bring this up after the movie announcement unless you were trying to deliberately conflate some satanic imagery in the movie to children suffering because of a well-known and well-documented phenomenon?
And look at this. This is Tokyo, December 17th, 1997. This is when the movie was first actually released over in Japan. The bright flashing lights of a popular TV cartoon became a serious matter Tuesday evening when they triggered seizures in hundreds of Japanese children. In a national survey, the Tokyo Fire Department found that at least 618 children had suffered convulsions, vomiting, irritated eyes, and other symptoms after watching Pokemon.
No, they experience epileptic symptoms after watching Electric Soldier Porygon specifically because that episode had quickly flashing blue and red lights. But thank you very much for the disingenuous framing.
Japanese television network NHK reported that 111 people were still hospitalized Wednesday morning. And now spokesman Hiroshi Uramoto said that a later broadcast of the show scheduled for 30 other stations nationwide had been canceled and that an investigation was well underway. We are shocked to hear many children were taken to hospitals, Uramoto said. We will investigate thoroughly and consult with experts. And you know what they found? Not one of those children had a history of epilepsy. Now, you know, working in the mental health field for as long as I did.
Whoa, that is highly concerning. Like, seriously concerning.
I can tell you that bright flashing lights will trigger off in occasion, seizures and convulsions in kids or even adults that are prone to be epileptic. But not in 100 and so kids who have no seizure problem and no epileptic history. There's something unusual about that.
So let's just take for granted that he's representing this case properly. A show with lots of flashing lights triggered an unusual number of seizures in an unexpected population of people. Where do we go from this? Take it as an anomaly to be studied and hopefully understood better? Look more closely to see if there were any commonalities across the population of the victims or the situations under which they watched the movie? See if the movie might have had unique seizure triggers and, even if nothing concrete is found there, take this as a reason to be more cautious about how flashing patterns are displayed in future films? Those all sound like reasonable reactions, and we might or might not find anything by pursuing them. But at best this phenomenon is a mystery, and you're taking a big and deliberate leap by going from "these seizures seem unexpected" in a movie that did have flashing light patterns to insinuations about demons or whatever.
One episode, a single episode, not even the movie, an episode that has since stopped airing. Go figure.
And they went through, and it goes on further to say that they went through and even did CAT scans. And the whole premise was that at the end, they had to conclude that they don't know why it happened. Is that by coincidence? Or did something happen that they can't explain?
See, this is why I can't take jokers like this seriously anymore. Every conspiracy theorist, at some point, is more motivated by a compelling question than an accurate answer. A question like, Did something happen they can't explain? Invites you to feel really smart when you fill in the blanks, whereas an accurate answer forces you to accept the truth of the matter regardless of your previous position. Conspiracy theorists love to feel like they have privileged information, and thus these types of questions end to bookend their topics instead of, ending things on actual factual conclusions.
Yeah, there might be something they can't currently explain. But if this is the case, that's just because of the complexity or novelty of the medical phenomena, meaning that any meaningful future explanation will be uncovered by rigorous medical science and probably not by, some dude like this.
Remember I said that they get their energy through energy balls. And here is a picture of cute little Pikachu, and he's being energized by an energy ball.
The energy balls are abstracts in the card game alone. They don't exist outside of the card game. They don't exist in the TV show, the movies, the comic books, what have you. They're literally just abstract representations of a resource system in a card game. Zod, why is he hurting me?
Because you're a liberal atheist snowflake whose feelings are too easily hurt?
And now you notice he's not quite so cute anymore.
I think he still looks cute. I mean, the little guy's almost cuter when he gets down to business. I'm not sure what your problem is.
And his little satanic tail is really erect.
Stop! My penis can only get so erect.
And now, parents, if you're not up on Pokemon, you need to be. And one of the things you can do is go out and buy the official Pokemon trading card game Player's Guide. And you can get this at any store that sells any of the Pokemon stuff. I mean, anything. You can get it like at Toys R Us or any of those places that sell any of the Pokemon. And it says on the back of this, catch them all, then build an unbeatable tournament deck. And one of the things you can do is look through here because it shows every Pokemon in existence, and it tells you what their powers are, and it tells you how they get weak, and it tells you how they energize and what you need to energize them. But something very unusual is also in this book, and that is that they actually show the energy balls that
are used
to make these monsters bigger and better. I want you to see them. I hope you can see them from where I am. I'm going to hold it out here so hopefully you can see it.
You do have a projector, right? I mean, it's not just me. This guy has a projector. Did he just run out of money for old-timey transparencies or something?
Look at the yellow. What do you see?
A lightning bolt.
Lightning bolt. Look here. All-seeing eye.
Okay. And one, it's a fictional game. And two, what would you use to represent psychic-type Pokemon? I mean, it's kind of hard to have an abstract representation of something that literally only exists in fiction with nothing to compare it to in reality. I mean, and seriously, water Pokemon use a raindrop. Grass, a leaf, fire use, fire. But look at the normal type. It's equally random. It's an abstract thing. It's a star shape. So what?
Everybody see that? Up here is the clenched fist, symbol for rebellion, anarchy.
That's for the fighting type. What do you fight with? Right, a gun. No. You use your hands. You fight with your hands. Be a gentleman.
Right down here is a powerful witchcraft symbol where my finger is. Powerful witchcraft symbol, and it's a symbol for fire.
So, you mean fire Pokemon use fire energy? Shock, horror, gasp, somebody call the president. Toasters, toast.
Down here is another powerful witchcraft symbol, actually a New Age symbol. They call a New Age symbol for Earth.
And shockingly, grass Pokemon use grass energy. And?
Okay, which is a green leaf. And down at the bottom here, this blue ball down in here is the symbol for energy of water. And water transforms into wind.
Wait, ignoring the obvious blue ball joke here, Wind Pokemon are represented by the normal energy type, up at the top, not water. Water doesn't transform into wind. Where the hell did you pull this from?
Earth, wind, and fire, the three basic elements of all witchcraft, parents. And I'm going to ask you, parents, grandparents, concerned aunt and uncles, friends, do you think they put that in there by coincidence?
Maybe by coincidence. Or maybe, I don't know, just spitballing here. They were trying to come up with simple, colorful ways to represent abstract power-ups for cartoon characters, and one basic, nay generic, way to go about it was to use 4 crude traditional divisions of elemental forces along with the human abilities of strength and perception. But I get it. Why ascribe to basic game mechanics what can be attributed to satanic malice?
Do you think they just built this game, put these on there, and said, hey, let's just put those symbols on there, they look cool. Kids won't know what they are, but they'll like them because they look cool? Or did they put them on there because they know what the meaning of each one of those symbols is? And they want to desensitize our children to seeing those symbols so much that when they see them in other things, hey, no big deal.
Dude, it's literally water Pokemon using water, electric Pokemon using electricity, fire Pokemon using fire. What other symbols would you have expected here? Fire being represented by fucking fire is exactly that. It's not a big deal.
There is a devised plan going on for the battle of our children's minds. There's a war going on right now for the children because Satan wants them really bad. Who better to serve the Antichrist than the youth? And the whole object is to catch them while they're young. Remember the Pokemon motto? Gotta catch them all?
The only thing being caught here is Kadabra, my guy. You catch Pokemon, not people. Christ.
Head in hands.
Who do you think feels that way? It's the enemy. Gotta catch them all. Gotta get them while they're young. Gotta induct satanic doctrine. Gotta put these symbols in their spirits.
See, this is the whole crux of the problem. The idea of putting symbols in people's spirits is gibberish. It describes no actual activity and in fact means literally nothing, so you can accuse anybody of doing it. That's basically the gist of this whole presentation. Trump up accusations of witchcraft or demonic activity, which are totally intangible, and then think of spooky ways to interpret imagery surrounding something that's unfamiliar to a middle-aged Christian audience. This strategy will work pretty much without fail due to a combination of factors. 1. This audience is hyper-vigilant against any worldly outside influence on their children, so they'll generally buy into it. And 2, since the accusation is purely abstract, not only does it accommodate insane logical leaps in interpretation of imagery, but it depends on them. And anybody who stands up and says common sense things like, this is totally speculative and unverifiable, or where's any tangible indication of this, and I guess there are at least 1 or 2 in the crowd who are thinking this because as a former Christian I've been there, they're just going to sound inadequately on guard against an adversary who works in intangible spiritual ways and can only be sifted out through equally intangible spiritual discernment. So while this guy sounds like a batshit crazy lunatic, this is actually a pretty well-crafted routine, whether he consciously planned it that way or not.
Gotta put these monsters in their heads. Gotta mess up their dreams. Gotta mess up their reality.
You know who else wants to get kids while they're young? Put symbols in their head? Jesus. If I grant you that premise, that all of this is Satan, if you want to be upset about that strategy, maybe you should make sure that your favorite deity isn't doing the exact same thing and making you toss stones from a glass house.
The problem is a lot of evangelicals would miss the irony here, because they don't see a fundamental problem with putting things in kids' heads. To them, it's an explicitly
Gotta break up the family. Have you ever tried to get talking to a child when he's into this game? It's impossible. They spend more time on this Pokemon. And you know what? It's amazing that your child can tell you every Pokemon in existence, even tell you where they get their power, what they do, and how they do it, but they can't tell you what you told them 5 minutes ago.
This is highly dependent on the kid. You could say it depends on the child. Moreover, this isn't unique to Pokemon. This argument works on literally anything a child finds intriguing. Have you considered, maybe, just maybe, being less boring for your kid?
They also can't tell you probably what they learned in school that day.
Have their teachers tried being less boring?
And even worse than that, they can't quote you scripture.
I mean, I could. I went to PCA, and I could recite Pokemon info and quote you scripture back then. My childhood literally invalidates your argument.
I've never seen anybody express so much bafflement over the fact that kids tend to remember and carry on about things they find interesting. I mean, parents always have some frustration over this. When I was young, it was about the fact that we could remember every hidden thing in a Super Mario Bros. Level, and I'm sure this has been a parental gripe since time immemorial. Now yeah, there are potential issues of kids meeting their obligations, learning what they need to at school, and avoiding hyperfixation. But you know what doesn't help you get clarity on the severity of the problem and how to approach it? Worrying about how demonic your kids' games are.
There's something wrong. And I'm talking to the men right now because, men, we've been given an awesome task by God. We have nothing to say about it. You know why? God tells us that we're the priest of our homes. We are the ones who say, we are going to follow God. I don't care what anyone else does, but as for me and my family, we are going to serve the Lord. We are the ones who are supposed to say, this stuff is going to be allowed, and this stuff is out. And ladies, women of God, you've got an awesome task ahead too, because the Word of God says that you're to raise your children in the ways of the Lord. Not in the ways of these Pokemon, not in the ways of witchcraft or Satan worship, but in the ways of the Lord.
Okay, but ignoring your hyperbole about Satanism, I was literally able to play these games growing up and be a good Christian for almost 2 decades. This is a black and white fallacy. You don't have just 2 binary choices here.
This is a picture from one of the comic books. Look at this. Pokemon Psychic Surprise. Surprise, all right. Look at this. This creature right here is called Haunter.
No, that's Gengar. Haunter is behind him.
And I talked to 3 kids in 3 different cities who actually came up and told me that they were having bad dreams and that creature was in their dreams. Called Haunter.
Anything can be in your dreams. That's how the subconscious works, genius.
Yeah, like I mentioned in part 1, the fact that images can spook us is pretty mundane. Be suspicious of people who try to insinuate it proves the demonic.
That makes sense. Haunt. Right up here is a creature that's not quite so cute now. This over here is not quite so cute. Little Pikachu down here, he's crying his eyes out. He's not cute, and even Ash doesn't look cute anymore.
This middle-aged man has a disturbing fixation on how cute anime characters are.
Psychic Surprise.
I just realized this isn't from the comic book. This is a DVD. It's an episode of the show, and he keeps calling it a comic book for some reason. Specifically, it's the episode where Ash dies and meets Gengar, Haunter, and Ghastly, because the psychic surprise was gym leader Sabrina turning everyone into dolls. She actually had done this to her parents as well because of trauma. The ghost Pokemon here were needed to counter her overpowered psychic-type Pokemon. Somehow, the ghosts brought Ash back, and he took Haunter to try to tackle Sabrina after his first failure left Brock and Misty in doll form. It's actually a really touching episode because Sabrina was estranged from her parents because of some childhood trauma, and it caused her personality to split. It literally made her manifest a child body for herself. Haunter, not fighting her Kadabra in the Pokemon gym battle, ended up joking with her and screwing with her, and this actually snaps her back to reality. It brings her back in touch with her inner child. Instead of her being cut off from that part of herself, she's able to reconnect with it. It softens her up enough to be able to talk with her parents again after undollifying them, Brock and Misty. It was really touching. And while Haunter didn't stick with Ash after this point, it was super great to see the battles here settled not with violence, but was saving a disturbed, hurt individual from themselves. It was a really touching episode in the early series, and honestly, any parent worried about losing touch with their kid should see it. It's a really good watch.
I don't know for sure, but I think I happened to see this show or one like it. It was a touching episode and a good one for parents to talk about with kids. The problem is that Christians would focus on the perceived necromancy and probably the fact that they search for the psychological roots of the bad guy's behavior instead of holding her accountable. But that's a problem with a mindset encouraged by their religion, not with Pokemon.
And you know, going back to those energy balls, I believe that those energy balls represent that the Pokemon get their power by supernatural occult ability.
No, it's biological. The Pokedex even goes over this. Seriously, you came here looking like some Pokemon expert and you just ended up looking like a fool. And not just because you called everything satanic. You have the books with the answers sitting right there in front of you that show that you're wrong. You just don't want to read the dang things because you're so hung up on them being demonic. You also want to call a DVD a comic book, so who am I to assume you even know how to read?
You saw the symbols. Remember, the materials speak for itself. They give themselves away. And what made that even more evident was two cards. One was called Abra, and the other card is called Cadabra. Abra, Cadabra. And that's an actual phrase, it's an actual name.
Right, that's because it's a pun. You see, Abra evolves into Cadabra, which evolves into Alakazam. Abra, Cadabra, Alakazam. It's a pun, dude. Don't tell me that you're a parent and can't appreciate a dad joke. Also, funnily enough, Nintendo got sued for the Cadabra name in the card because of Uri Geller. He was a semi-famous magician and illusionist that thought Cadabra was based on his personal likeness, and because of this, because Cadabra used spoons, of all things, the Cadabra card got banned from use in the Pokemon card game for nearly 20 years because of one guy and spoons.
Listen to this. Webster's Dictionary defines it as a word supposed to have magic powers and hence used in incantations, on amulets, etc., a magic spell or formula. And on the Abra card, it says, using its ability to read minds, it will identify impending danger and teleport the user to safety.
If the point is that Pokemon characters ever use imagery or powers associated with paranormal phenomena, then I guess busted? Yeah, some of the stuff is there. So it comes down to a matter of how you view it. Do you see it as playful allusion to stuff we generally understand to be nonsense? Or are you actually alarmed by it because you're the kind of crackpot who thinks it's all real?
The Cadabra character has a pentagram on his forehead.
No, it has a star. No circle around it, no design, just a star. Do all stars scare you?
And he has SSS across his chest. And it is the satanic SSS. And in my particular sect of Satanism, we didn't have it, but I ran into other groups that did. They had tattoos on the inside of their wrist, over their breasts, or on the inside of their thigh, and it was that same SSS. You know what it stands for? Satan's Solemn Servant.
Dude, he has waves on his stomach because the Pokedex clearly states in the game and the books that you have sitting right next to you that he emits alpha waves. So his body has red waves on it. Seriously, the Pokedex Answers is just treated like a frickin' Bible if you want to talk about this.
And also, the Cadabra character is always pictured on the card with his left hand giving the satanic salute.
He only has 3 fingers. Every time he opens his hands, it will look like that satanic salute, but it's impossible to avoid because he was designed with only 3 fingers. Also, if you say that it always is represented on the card this way, given that at this time only one type of Cadabra card existed, there literally would have only been one card printed over and over. It means nothing that every one of them looks the same.
So he has just enough fingers to always give the satanic salute? How convenient.
And again, I have to ask you, do you think that's on there by coincidence? Do you think they just made this game and said, hey, let's just throw that in there because it looks good? Let's just throw that in there because it makes it look a little more exciting.
Yes! Seriously, anytime someone engages in character design, there will be concepts added in just because they look cool, and that's it. It happens all the time. It's not special.
Or did they put that in there because they know exactly what it means and they want our children to get desensitized to it? They want our children to be able to look at that and actually at one day now, while they're identifying with their favorite Pokemon, reach up and go, "Hail Pokemon!"
No one did this. No one does this. Really, reality debunks you. Holy shit.
And what are they actually hailing? Satan. Listen, our kids are carrying around these cards like they're magic symbols, and they are taught to believe that they can call on the powers of these cards anytime they want to. And I ask you, do you believe that our kids believe they have power?
Not mine, because I raised them to believe realistic things. If your kids lack such clarity because you raise them to believe otherwise, that's on you.
Or do you think that this is just nothing but talk? Because if they don't believe that it has power, why are we seeing time after time after time news clips about our kids beating each other up on school grounds, even stabbing each other over Pokemon cards?
Because the cards have value, real monetary value. People get stabbed over money all the time. Not that this is a particularly good thing, but seriously, any collectible that has any modicum of value will have people fighting over it in the modern world. It happens. It doesn't mean children believe that these things have special powers.
Look at this. Quebec teen stabbed at school over Pokemon cards. This was in Montreal. And this was a 12-year-old student that tried to help his younger brother after his younger brother had his Pokemon card deck stolen from him. And he went over to these young men to get the cards back, and one of the boys pulled out a 4-inch knife and stabbed him with it.
Surprise, surprise. Someone willing to steal something from a kid was also violent. Imagine that.
Look at this. Boy attacks teacher over Pokemon. Here in Lakeland, Florida, there was a young boy who had a deck of Pokemon cards, and he was passing them around the class, and the woman teacher noticed that they were paying more attention to Pokemon than they were her. So she waited for the deck to get back to this young man, and then she walked over and grabbed that deck out of his hand. He got up and struck her dead in the face with his fists.
Again, not a good thing, but this happens with literally any item that a teacher takes from a kid. There's bound to be some kid who responds violently because some kids haven't learned yet that violence is not an appropriate response to something like that. This shit happens.
And of course, he got called in on the principal's carpet in the office, and they called for the parents. And the parents came to pick him up, and you know what he told his father? They were trying to steal my powers. Our kids are taught to believe that these things actually have supernatural ability and that they can call on them anytime they want to because their material states that.
So a young kid said something stupid that made no sense. Surprise, surprise, happens all the time. Doesn't mean you should put stock in it. Also, I noticed that unlike some of your other examples, you don't have any citation pulled up. Imagine that.
In this book, it tells your child, you have the power at your fingertips, so use it.
No, it doesn't. It said something vague like, the power is in your hands, in reference to having a powerful deck of Pokemon cards. It's literally marketing. Seriously, if stuff like this upsets you, get mad at capitalism. It's incentivizing language like this to sell toys.
And that's what they're doing. This game is a war designed to attack our children's minds, their very character.
The only battle is a battle of marketing. Again, blame capitalism, not Satan, you loony.
And if it gets into our homes, it will wreck family life in one way, shape, or form.
At least you got that right. When I have kids, I plan on whooping their asses in whatever card game they choose to pick up.
This stuff is nothing more than unadulterated witchcraft, and it's put in a child's form, designed to attack the child and the parents and the entire family that this thing is associated with. That's exactly what it's designed to do, and that's what it does. Pokemon is a step to bigger and better things in the occult.
Dude literally just jumped into that slippery slope fallacy like it was a slip and slide. Oh, crap, I forgot. Children's toys are demonic, so the yellow plastic is flat. This is a sign that Satan wants to flatten God's power in the real world, and the wetness represents the mostly water-covered earth where Satan wants to rule, and the sliding we do on it represents our slide into his grasp as we slide away from God's glory, and or something. Am I doing it right?
Doing what right? Being a jackass? Sure, I guess. Notice also that he said that bigger things in the occult are better. Careful, dude. Rile up the villagers, and they might turn their pitchforks on you if you're not careful.
And I have to wonder sometime when a grade school child is going to do what the Weeping Bell Razor Leaf Pokemon card says. It says this: it spits out poison powder to immobilize the enemy and then finishes the enemy with a spray of acid.
Dude, Weeping Bell is based off of a pitcher plant. You know, the plant that digests insects with their acid. An ounce of research. That's all I ask.
Maybe also a kid will try to fart lightning at his teacher since they're taking Pokemon powers that literally.
And these cards cost anywhere from $7 to $9 per single pack. And there are report after report of children going into their parents' pocketbook and stealing money to go out and buy these cards.
As any unruly child has done to purchase anything from soda to candy to any other toy since the dawn of such things.
What is the purpose? What is the magic that's behind the whole game of Pokemon? I think by looking at it in that realm and looking at it the way that we've looked at it, I don't see it as being something that is beneficial to our children. I don't see it as being something that's going to help our family grow. And I sure don't see it as something that's going to help get the child established in the ways of the Lord.
My guy, do you realize that when your kids eat a pizza roll, that doesn't get him established in the ways of the Lord either? Not every little thing you do needs to be based on whether or not it gives your kids paragon points towards heaven. There is room in life for other things that we enjoy, else your kids are going to live quite the boring life, being devoted only to things that further their alignment to the deity featured in your favorite book.
This is totally the opposite. Remember that the whole goal in all of these role-playing games, and especially in Pokemon, is to become the master.
Why are they clapping? That whole presentation was horseshit. Zod, why did you subject me to this?
Because I never saw the Tiger King, and I was wondering if you could tell me whether this was the guy from it.
Well, in any case, that was something. Basically just a condensed version of all the material I was forced to digest from Pensacola Christian Academy, telling me my favorite pastime was demonic, but back then, I just ignored it and scoffed because, well, I knew better, and now as an adult, who am I kidding? I still know better. And even more now. This is silly, functionless propaganda through and through, and it was then as it is now. It's conservative Christians seeing something that they don't understand and finding any way possible to realign the world to what they remember as children by denouncing anything they don't like or don't understand as demonic. This stuff still happens today and people keep falling for it. But with that said, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, subscribe, and, well, speaking of subscriptions, maybe you should go check out Prophet of Zod. Links will be in the description, and if you want to see the first part of this video, you'll need to go there. You'll enjoy it, though, don't worry. On a more sentimental note, Zod was the first content creator to really collaborate with me, and if not for that, I wouldn't have been able to make YouTube my full-time job. So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you, man. It means a ton to me, and it means the world to me now, more than anything, to be able to do a project together. So, go sub to Zod, hit the bell icon on both of our videos, and, well, insert end of video tagline here, but only after you go and watch the other half of this on his channel.